But we always say Gambia, so we always say Salaam Alaikum.
Welcome back to Good Morning Gambia, and I'm your presenter, Hadi Baji. Elsewhere on Good Morning Gambia program, the African Center for Democracy and Human Rights Studies announces a forum on the participation of NGOs in its ordinary session on the theme Justice for Africans and People of African Descent through Reparation. The chairperson of the ACHPR, Hannah Foster, is in the studio. For more on that development, greetings to you, Madam Foster, and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Hadi. But just rectification. I am the Executive Director of the African Center for Democracy and Human Rights Studies, ACDHRS.
Okay, it is noted. It is noted, and once again, welcome to our studios. Reparative justice is crucial but expensive. What can NGOs do to help advance the cause?
Reparative justice as we know it, yes, it's quite expensive, but it depends on when you talk about monetary payments to victims or survivors. There are very many ways of acknowledging violations that have taken place in our communities, in our countries. So what NGOs can do at this particular forum is to strategize, to have clear definitions of what do we mean by reparations, when we talk about justice through reparations, what are we talking about? What is the history of the African and Africans at home and in the diaspora? What has been the human rights violations that we are talking about? How can they be? How can reparations be made? And I believe one of the things that CSOs are able to do is to sit down and make sure that they know the dimensions of the human rights violations that have actually taken place, and also to use existing instruments to see how the justice can be achieved for those victims.
And historically, injustices meted out on Africans still hurts. Are those countries that carried out such heinous crimes willing or have already accepted responsibility for such actions?
That's a very difficult question, because we all know that not many countries who were violators or perpetrators have come out, have had the courage to come out and accept that they had really committed crimes. So I believe there is a lot more to be done to ensure that perpetrators do not have a place to hide. But one of the challenges that exist is that Africans themselves are not even standing up to acknowledge that this thing happened, yes, to our forefathers, and it is because those things are happening and are still happening, because we still have modern day slavery amongst others. Nothing much is being done, and you cannot cry more than those who are oppressed. Many times you find out that these things are happening and are still happening, and there's a lot of people living in denial. They're telling us that, no, you see, but then they are massaging the truth.
They wouldn't want to come in the open and then say this is actually happening.
That's right.
Which is not also helping.
It is not. It is not. So we are hoping that with this particular theme coming out and bringing over 200 or more organizations and individuals, it will definitely nip it in the bud for them to start talking, break that culture of silence on this particular theme. We know anytime you talk about colonialism, then you find out that it becomes a problem. When you talk about slavery, yeah, and slavery still continues, you are told, no, slavery has been abolished. But really, yes, on paper, but in practical terms, it still happens.
Especially in certain local communities.
That's right. And even one of the topics that is going to be discussed during the forum is that of communities discriminated against by work and descent. And we know that this is still alive here in the Gambia. There are studies that have been done that give us even the statistics of what is happening here in Gambia, in Mali, in Niger, among others.
And those people, they themselves accepted it.
Yes, because that is what they found at home. You come home and they say, okay, this is, we are used to being the slaves of this particular group. You go in, you make sure that they have water, you to look after their horses, you know, and you are not even allowed to pray in the same mosque with them. And this is happening. So, and yet, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights tells us that we are all equal in dignity and in rights. And really, we ask ourselves, is that really happening?
But I think lack of education also has a role to play because, you know, once you're educated, you wouldn't want somebody, you know, to trample on you, treat you as a slave.
I disagree partly. Yes, education has a lot to do with it. But I also know that for many of these victims or survivors, you find out that they've been too comfortable, because you have somebody who will give you food, somebody who will give you their old clothes to wear, and you know, you find out that then you say, okay.
But then the harassment that comes with it, that's where I cannot accept.
Many of them don't see it as harassment. In fact, when you go to talk to them, to sensitize them, they are like, you want to destabilize their comfortable situations. This is happening in Mauritania and and even here in Gambia. Some people feel very comfortable because they don't have to hustle, but they are treated like second-class citizens or even less. So,
and Hannah, there are so many reparative justices, including economic, gender, and other, you know, ethical practices. Will such feats be achieved? Do you think it is achievable?
Yes. In some of our countries, some of it has been achieved. For example, in Morocco, you find out that they do have many lessons that they can share with us when it comes to reparative justice. You know, and many times, even in Gambia here, I'm sure you had been following the TRRC, and they're talking about reparative justice. But then the problem here is the fact that people think that, okay, if I'm going to be paid, it's going to be monetary. But in most cases, it's not monetary, and it's not personal. It's if violations have been committed to a community, I believe it has the justice has to take care of the community, the needs of the community, and to see how that community can remember that this happened during this period, and this memorial is in aid for us to remember that this is something we cannot allow in our community again. Money cannot buy your dignity. Money cannot buy the suffering that you've been through. But then it is important that it is what has happened is acknowledged, and we all agree that it is against human dignity.
And the next high-level forum will be coming very soon. Who are the expected participants in this year's event?
Okay, the forum during preceding the 83rd session of the African Commission is going to be held in next week, from the 28th to the 30th of April. And we are expecting academicians, civil society, professionals working on human rights on the continent and also outside of the continent. We are looking at over 250 participants have already registered. So we are hoping that, yes, they will come. and we should be able to have a good discussion on these topics.
Madam Hannah Foster, Executive Director of the African Center for Human Rights and Democracy. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
That was the chairperson of the Executive Director of the African Center for Human Rights and Democracy, Hannah Foster. Well, listeners, that does it for this edition of the Good Morning Gambia program on GRTS Radio with me, Hadi Baji. Many thanks to our audience, but also the host of our studio operators, Program Director Ramatulai Jallo, and to the program producer Ibrahim Abba. Many thanks for the pleasure of your company. Thank you.